Hello, Void Dwellers. I am a huge Bill Burr fan, and have been for probably the last 15-20 years, from back when he had hair. I remember watching these bad quality videos of him doing 5 minutes bits, and I loved his humor ever since. And every special he puts out there is an absolute pleasure. He's like Louis C.K. in that sense. One of those comics that I can tell you, just pick a special at random, you won't go wrong. They're all amazing. They'll all make you laugh, and you know what? They'll all make you think. And that's another thing I love about his comedy. It's smart. I know part of his shtick is to say, don't listen to me, I'm not educated and all that, but that's just part of the act. The comedy, his observations are smart. And I believe he knows that. I think he uses the don't listen to me, I'm not educated bullshit as kind of a defense, so that if he ever got caught being wrong about something, he could just say, well, I said I wasn't smart, what do you want from me? But he is smart, and his comedy is smart. You leave one of his shows or his specials with actual food for thought. So, I cannot tell you how disappointed I was with his remarks about the Israel-Hamas war, both outside of his special, but mostly in his new special. But also, I thought it produced an opportunity to demonstrate something I've been saying for a while now on this channel, and that is the way anti-Semitism is embedded into Western culture, as well as other forms of racism that are still here. But before you click away, let me try to reel you in by immediately saying that I do not think Bill is anti-Semitic at all. And I don't think he is racist in any way. Not by choice, at least, not consciously. However, I do think that he is very much a Westerner, and he lives in Western culture, and he was brought up by it, and as such, he carries with him the tendencies of Western culture, one of which is to have a completely different standard when it comes to Jews, and when it comes to Arabs. And I'll explain myself, don't worry, we're going to dive into it, but I just want to also point out first that Bill is not woke. He's not on the far left. Because every time I talk about the West, some people inevitably try to excuse it by saying, oh, these are just the useful idiots, these purple-haired woke kids. Well, here you go then. Bill is not woke. He's not politically correct. I'd bet his audience is massively made out of centrists and right-wing people, okay? This guy is the opposite of woke. He is kind of on the same path as Bill Hicks and Sam Kinison and Dennis Leary, early Dennis Leary. It's this kind of tough, manly man acting, all right? Not woke. So, let's hear what Bill has to say.
I kind of know what's going on. I know Gaza Strip, that's still going, right? Yeah, okay, that's going on. Well, did you pick a side? I don't know. How the fuck is war still legal in 2024? Can you explain that to me? I mean, as a comedian, I can't call a fat fuck anymore. Yeah, I'm not allowed to do that, but it's still socially acceptable to shoot a missile in the general direction of somebody you're upset with. You're like, dude, there was kids over there. This is my favorite response. Well, they're using kids as human shields. It's like, well, you gotta work around that. Jesus Christ, if I'm mad at my neighbor and I want to beat the shit out of him, but he's holding a baby, right? I wouldn't come in and try to punch him through the baby. Yeah, you go in, you throw a hook, you sweep the legs. You do it on the lawn so the baby bounces off the grass, all right? There's fucking rules to this shit.
Now, first of all, right out of the gate, you have the way he refers to it as the situation in the Gaza Strip. Now, that's not all his fault. The media in the West cover the war as if it happens only to them. About an hour after the 7th of October, while we were still identifying parts of children, the media in the West was already talking about the poor Gazans. And even though throughout the war Israel was bombed by tens of thousands of rockets, ballistic missiles, and drones from Gaza, from Lebanon, from Iran, from Yemen, and in spite of our cutting-edge defense system, some direct hits did take place, the media made sure people in the West never heard of it. Never saw these pictures, never heard of Israeli deaths, Israeli casualties of war, never showed you the funerals of the hundreds and hundreds of soldiers that we lost, which, A, for us, is the same as civilians, because it's a people's military and the IDF is really our sons, brothers, fathers, uncles, friends from high school, not some unknown mercenaries. And B, the media does report on Hamas militants' deaths together with their supposed made-up civilian casualties. So the media makes it appears like this shit, which the Gazans has started, might I remind you, only happens to them. So fine, I won't hold that against Bill. Although when he wants, he knows how to be critical of what the mainstream media is telling him and what they might hide from him. But fine, let's put that under, hey, I'm not educated, and leave it at that. By the way, I made a bunch of videos about the disinformation and blood libels spread by the media, links in the description. Anyway, think about what Bill says about the they are using human shields bit. This is the core of what I'm talking about, because he doesn't deny that they do that. Like I said, Bill is smart. He knows that they do that. It has been documented repeatedly by the UN and by, sources that you can actually trust. So he doesn't deny that. But he thinks it should have worked. Now, the funny thing is, I kind of agree, but not in the same way that Bill is presenting it and not from the same reason. I've said repeatedly on this channel that I disagree with the way Israel has fought the war, mainly because I think there are better ways to pressure Hamas into surrendering and freeing the hostages. They don't give two shits about the population. That's why they use them as human shields. So what do you think you're gaining from pressuring the population? So I agree that the way Israel has fought this war was wrong. But Bill thinks we should have worked around it. And he gives that funny, a man I'm angry with is holding a baby joke. And that joke reveals two things. First, Bill is holding us to an impossible standard. And two, he is holding the Palestinians to such a low standard that it's kind of hard not to see it as racism. But it's not racism, again, it's common Western phenomenon, which tends to unite left and right in their belief that Arabs are this deficient, stupid version of people and therefore cannot be held accountable for their actions. Jews, meanwhile, we are the whitest thing that has ever whited, we are powerful or rich, all of us, of course, and we are a hive mind, and therefore should conduct ourselves differently. But Bill's metaphor there is fundamentally wrong, because it's not a guy you're angry with holding a baby. It's a man breaking into your home, raping, torturing, and murdering your kids in front of you, then abducting some of them, running away, and holding up his own baby as a human shield, while continuously firing at your remaining children from that position, and every now and again murders a few of the children he took just for fun. So really, Bill? Is that a situation you work around? Or would you take the shot no matter what because you will not sacrifice your own children to protect his? And that is what we are being demanded to do here. Basically, we need to care more about their kids than ours. Why? Because we're white and strong and rich and, let's be honest here, matter less. And the Palestinians? Hell, they are all treated like children by Bill and by other Westerners. Lower than children. He's not upset that they use babies as human shields. He doesn't deny it. He behaves as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Well, that's just what Arabs do, right? They can't help themselves. They're primitive that way. Don't you see how fucking racist it is to pretend the Palestinians are somehow less aware of the atrocities they commit? Less responsible for their actions? And in the meantime, we are supposed to what exactly? I actually asked one of those pro-Palestinians that, and the kid actually said to me, well, you could have left Gaza alone. Unbelievable. And the kid was actually surprised when I revealed to him that Gaza was left alone by us and given in full to the Palestinian Authority 20 fucking years ago. And Hamas took it over a year later. And we haven't controlled Gaza since. So this entire thing is from an unoccupied territory. So what are we supposed to do exactly? Allow our hostages to be tortured and murdered with no punishment? Why? Because it's really hard to not think that the answer is that Jews just worth less than anyone else. It's racist to not hold the Palestinians accountable for their actions. It's condescending to think that their actions shouldn't have consequences because they didn't know any better. And it's fucking anti-Semitic to demand of us to sacrifice our kids in order to protect theirs. And you know who's responsible for protecting Palestinian kids? The fucking Palestinians. And you know how they could have saved them all? They could have not used them as human shields. They could have invested in shelters and defense like we did instead of terror and bombs and terror tunnels. They could have not invade us and commit the worst atrocities since the Holocaust in what is now considered the third worst terror attack in the history of this planet. They could have released the hostages, laid down their weapons, and the war would have been ended immediately, and the Palestinian Authority would have taken the Gaza Strip back. Look how many fucking options they had to save their kids, and they chose none of those, but guess whose fault it is? So do I think that Bill Burr is anti-Semitic? No, I don't. But he is following the anti-Semitic tropes that are embedded into the culture he grew up in. It's not anti-Semitism by choice, it's anti-Semitism by culture. Whenever we get involved, all subtlety and reasoning that he brings to any other topic is thrown out of the window. We are rich, whiter than white, and we are always the villain. Even when it's pretty cartoonishly obvious who are the good guys and who are the bad guys in this particular story. We are always expected to be the bigger man, even if it means death to our own children. And the Palestinians, meanwhile, they are this backward society that shouldn't be held accountable to anything they do, including basically murdering their own kids, because they just don't know any better. It's appalling, but I believe that many people in the West work from these two assumptions. And that is a big part of why such a simple and obvious case of good versus evil is so controversial in the West. And yeah, I think the terms good and evil are kinda retarded, but that's what I mean. This is how fucking easy it should be to recognize who is the right side and who is the wrong one. And the fact that it's not as simple for them as it should be demonstrates to you what I've been saying. When it comes to Jews, all reason is lost in the West. Right is wrong, black is white, and we are always the villain. Even when it comes from very smart and non-racist people. Being racist towards us is not even considered racism. Many people would just say, hey, I'm not racist, I'm just telling it like it is.